Good afternoon. My name is Specialist Taylor, and today I'll be conducting a training session on how to locate an unknown point on a map and on the ground by resection. To follow along, you can search for task code 071-COM-1015 in the STP 21-1-SMCT. I've already provided a deliberate risk assessment worksheet. The overall risk is low. However, there are some safety and security concerns that I'd like to highlight. I've already moved the furniture out of the way as much as possible. All wires have been tucked in. However, please be careful of where you step because we do not want anyone to trip and hurt themselves. Additionally, if you enter or leave the training area, please ensure that the door is closed behind you. Even though the probability of this occurring is low, we could have an active shooter situation. So again, whenever you leave or enter the area, ensure that the door is closed behind you. Okay, let's move into our training session. Let me start off by stating the task, conditions, and standards. Today, locate an unknown point on a map and on the ground by resection. As a squad member in a virtual environment, given a 1 to 50,000 scale military map with at least 2 well-defined points, a magnetic compass, a military protractor, a pencil, paper, and an item to use as a straight edge, determine the grid coordinates of your location to within 100 meters, including the 2-letter 100,000 meter square identifier using the map and compass method. Okay, evaluation. How do you get a go in this task? You need to get 4 goals. These are a go in providing the correct magnetic azimuth, the correct grid azimuth, the correct back azimuth, and the correct grid coordinates. However, today we will be drawing on our knowledge of shooting a magnetic azimuth and plotting or determining grid coordinates. We've all been through basic combat training. We all have these skills. Today we will rely upon them. But do not fear, I will refresh those in today's training session. Again, we are in a virtual environment, so we do not need any special equipment or clothing to perform this task. The standard, all we need are a magnetic compass, pencil, paper, something to use as a straight edge. I'll use my ruler, military protractor, and a map. All of you guys have those, so we are good to go in that regard. Before we begin, I'd like each soldier to sign this evaluation / roster. Okay? I will use this to record the results of each soldier. All names have been received. Let's move into the training. I will begin this by doing a high-speed demonstration to standard performance of this task. Okay, so we have determined the grid coordinates of our once unknown location to be Echo Golf 6231113. Now how did we get to this? Now let's go through this step by step. Now you want to start off by shooting or magnetic azimuth. You can use the compass to cheat method like I did, or the center hole method. Again, whichever one is comfortable with you, use that one. So we shot our magnetic azimuth for our first location as 105. Then we converted it to grid azimuth. The conversion table says from magnetic to grid azimuth, add the angle. So we have it as 10 degrees. We're going to add that to 105. We got 115. Now to get our back azimuth, we either add or subtract 180. How to determine whether to add or subtract? Just choose one. Let's subtract. If we were to subtract 180 degrees, we would end up with minus 65. Such an angle does not exist. So in this case, we have to add 180 degrees. So we did that, we end up with 295. Then take our military protractor, place the center of the protractor on our well-defined point, ensuring that 0 is pointing north and 90 degrees is pointing east. So we did that, put a tick right where our back azimuth is, put a tick like so, then take our straight edge item, draw a straight line from our well-defined point through the tick and extend it beyond, all the way out. Okay, repeat those same steps at our other two known locations. Here, our magnetic azimuth was shot at 335 degrees. We added 10 to get our grid azimuth, and then instead of adding 180, because if we were to do so, we would end up with an angle above 360 degrees, and that again does not exist. So we subtracted 180, ended up with 165 as our back azimuth. Place our protractor down, ensuring that the center is on our point. 0 is pointing north, 90 degrees is pointing eastwards. Then put a tick right where our angle is. Draw a straight line from the well-defined point through the tick and extend it beyond. And it intersected here. Repeat those same steps again. For this location, magnetic azimuth was 35, grid azimuth 45, and back azimuth we just added 180 degrees. We got that at 225. Place our protractor down, put a tick where the angle lines up, right here, and then draw a straight line from our known point through the tick and extend it beyond. Now here represents the intersection of these three locations. In other words, if this were a real life scenario, this is where we would be standing. So all we need to do now is determine the grid coordinates. We already know how to do this, but again, place the center of our protractor on the apex that's located, the apex of the 1000 meter grid square that's located southwest. So this is our point. The one that's southwest is here. And when we're reading coordinates, it's always right first, then upwards. So let's go right. This lines up with 62, then upwards 11, right? And place our protractor down, center on the apex, 0, pointing north, 90, pointing eastwards, then slide the protractor across until the vertical center line lines up with our point. Put a dot, remove this, and for demonstration purposes, we've estimated this to be, again, right first, 3 going right, and then another 3 going upwards. So to remember this, it's always right, up, right, up. And here is our 6-digit grid coordinates, which represents the location to within 100 meters of the target. Now that I've provided you with a step-by-step demonstration of how you execute this task, we will go into our practice phase. Due to limitations and the fact that we're in a virtual environment, instead of having each student shoot the magnetic azimuth, I would provide them with 3 magnetic azimuths of 3 known locations. They will in turn provide me with the grid azimuth, the back azimuth, and the grid coordinates. The practice phase has now begun. I am walking around, observing the students to make sure that they're performing the task to standard and answering any questions that they may have. My soldiers have now performed the task to standard in the practice phase. We will now go into the testing and evaluation phase. Similarly, I will provide them the magnetic azimuths of 3 known locations, and they will in turn provide me with the grid coordinates, the grid azimuth, the back azimuth, and the grid coordinates. The testing phase has now begun. I am observing each student perform the task. I am recording their results. All results are now in. All but one student has not performed the task to standard. I will provide that student with all the critical information that they need to perform the task to standard. They made a mistake, and instead of adding to get the grid azimuth, they subtracted. So I went over that section with them, retested them. They are now retesting. I am observing them execute the task, recording their results. They perform the task to standard. All results are now in. All soldiers have performed the task to standard. At this point, I will account for my equipment. I still have my map, still have my pencil, my magnetic compass, my ruler, and my military protractor. I will now conduct an after-action review. What was the intent of today's training session? Yes. The intent was to determine an unknown location on a point and on the ground by resection. What was done? Yes. We determined the grid coordinates of an unknown location on a map and on the ground using resection. Are there any sustains? Are there any improvements? Are there any recommendations? Noted. Thank you. That concludes our after-action review. Let's review our risk assessment. Were my risk control measures effective? Noted. Thank you. At this point, I will ask every soldier to stand up and do a police call of the training area. Soldiers have finished police calling the training area. I will walk around and do a final inspection. Final inspection has been completed. I will now dismiss the soldiers and close out the training area. Soldiers are dismissed, and I have closed out the training area. I will now report my assessment of the training to my leadership. The report will go as follows. All soldiers have been trained to perform the task to standard. Thank you.